This is Good Evening San Diego.
In the Navy bribery scandal, military contractor Leonard Glenn Francis, who you see there, also known as Fat Leonard, has escaped house arrest. Officials say that Francis cut his GPS ankle monitor and he fled his Torrey Highlands home Sunday morning. This just weeks before he was set to be sentenced. So here's a breakdown of the case. Francis pleading guilty in 2015 for offering $500,000 in bribes to Navy officers. He also created sham companies to pass off as real port authorities that would charge Navy ships fake fees and tariffs. It's estimated that he overcharged the military by more than $35 million. He's also accused of operating a sex ring in exchange for insider information and influence. A high-profile search is now underway to try to find him. So joining us now to talk more about this turn of events is criminal defense attorney Vikas Bajaj. Good to see you again. Vic, how are you?
Likewise. My pleasure. Thank you.
Let's talk about this. I mean, he's escaped. He's cut the ankle bracelet off, and he's on the run. Tell me about, because he pled guilty and he's got some kind of an agreement. So how does this affect that?
Yeah, so we talk about a cooperation agreement. In this case, it's not a secret. Sometimes it is a secret. When a suspect becomes a defendant and they have the choice, hey, either plead guilty and sing for your supper, as they say, tell us about everyone else that may have committed an act of malfeasance, we will reduce your prison sentence. That's what he did in this case. The fact that he had a cooperation agreement is not a secret. It's published. Even the United States Attorney's Office said, hey, to everyone that went to trial in June, we have Fat Leonard on the deck to testify against you. Now, he did not testify in that case, but the important thing is he signed a 25-year deal. Attached to that is a cooperation addendum, which works specifically to bring that sentence down. So the question is, Logan, how do you bring the sentence down? What does the judge take into consideration? The judge will look at such things as, how many convictions did you help with, Mr. Leonard? How many other pieces of information did you give us that allowed us to investigate other acts of malfeasance, Mr. Leonard? And these benefits to the United States government extracted from the agents in a rightful and legal way are those pieces of equity he can then use through his lawyers to say, Judge, I'm here for sentencing. I signed for a quarter century. However, I have done A, B, C, and D for you, and the government reduced my sentence. So the issue here is not so much the 5-year term on the escape if he's found and prosecuted for it, or the obstruction of justice, or whatever else he may have been alleged to have done to effectuate the escape, but it's the violation of the cooperation agreement. Part of a cooperation agreement is to not flee, to make all of your court appearances, and that's in the plea agreement as well. He's violated both by escaping. So the issue is not the 5 years for the escape. It's the violation of the cooperation agreement, which had a high of 25 years.
So he was looking at 25 years, but it probably would have been less based upon that agreement. Now he's going to, if he's caught, he's got 5 years extra on top of the 25, or could it be more than that?
It could be more. Usually you never have just an escape. You'll have obstruction of justice. There may be corruption. There may be bribery. Other people may have been part of this conspiracy. I understand, as we had talked earlier, there were U-Haul vans in front of the residence over the weekend. Well, who had the vans arrive there? Who had a hand in this escape? That's what the federal government is now investigating.
We just had a suspect, a murder suspect, picked up for murder in San Diego, and he was in El Salvador. And I know a lot of people had thought, well, you know, you go to El Salvador, maybe you escape the long arm of the United States law, and maybe you don't get extradited. But he was. Where do you think he went? Where should somebody go? Not to, show the cards, but I mean, where do people go who are trying to escape the law? What countries provide the best protection?
That's a very, very difficult question to answer. Sometimes there are overt treaties that are negotiated with other countries. For instance, we've had some individuals of high publicity that have been published and articles written about them and news stories about them. They were in Panama, made their quick getaway to Guatemala. Both unfriendly countries to the United States insofar as treaties go, but there's also unofficial cooperation. Let's not forget, all the federal agencies have offices in most of the countries around the world, and cooperation, while not overtly agreed to with a treaty, are in fact covertly adhered to between governments and, most importantly, agencies. Is any place safe? I don't know. The question is, how long does he need to hide? We understand through the public court filings he suffered from serious health issues and afflictions. Who knows how long that will actually last, or whether he can find a cure when he's outside. That remains to be seen. But which country to go to, Logan? That's the, $500,000 bribe question and $35 million fraud question.
Sometimes when you hear about people, they're under house arrest, they've got the GPS monitor, and you hear people say, oh, they should just cut it off and run. And then somebody says, yeah, but once you cut it off, they get notified and the police come to your house. Do you know how long roughly you have from the time you cut that thing to get out of there?
You don't. No one can really tell you. I can tell you that the alert is sent almost immediately when there's a manipulation of the GPS ankle monitor. At one point in time, I had a client who had two. His bond was so high, one on the left foot, one on the right foot, and sometimes unintentional movements or even liquids or substances can set off a false alarm. They are very sensitive.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens and if they catch him and how soon and where he's caught if that happens. Vikas Bajaj, good to see you, Vic.
Thank you, sir.
Great to see you in person as always.